Hello, I'm Sharia Grant, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Channel 96 Tiger Talk News. On November 9th, the city of Savannah held its third annual Rock and Roll Marathon race. Over 18,000 participants began the race downtown Savannah. Many of the runners dressed in fun costumes with their running buddies as family, friends, and people of Savannah. The city of Savannah cheered them on. Marathoners were able to run through the beautiful campus of Savannah State University, where they were cheered on by Savannah State students and our wonderful Tiger mascot. Let's take it over to Shayla Volley, where she has live footage from the race.
The Rock and Roll Marathon, along with WTOC Savannah News, I asked energized runners how they felt about running the race.
I really like to run for my friend who died of pancreatic cancer, so I do my races for her.
And my daughter, she's 2, and I just want to run and give her a good example. And
my family, my friends that had passed away.
this is my hero, Lorraine Frank. She is 28 years old and fighting non-Hodgkin's for the 4th time. That's my motivation. I did it for her with bronchitis.
Congratulations, you guys are amazing. You did it.
Oh, this is awesome. Best one so far.
I love Savannah. It's my first time here, so everybody was warm and welcoming.
The city's great. The people are awesome. It was just so much fun.
People of Savannah have been awesome. It's been really great.
Savannah's an excellent town to run in. Great people, a lot of good support.
Keep pushing, man. Let's go, Atlanta!
Wonderful. Come back again next year.
Yeah, we'll be here again next year.
Yeah, it's the best day right now.
Eric McDonald of Groveland, Massachusetts, took the overall crowd, finishing at 26.2 miles. And in 2 hours and 29 minutes, Alyssa Colt of Columbia, South Carolina, was the first female finisher in 2 hours and 53 minutes. In the half marathon, Craig Dye of Bluffton, South Carolina, finished in 1 hour and 12 minutes as the top men's finisher, and the top woman, Erin Fondrier, finished 9 minutes later. The massive runners didn't take long to reach 7-mile mark, where they were greeted by throngs of supporters, but no one was offering as much encouragement as musician Volunteer Pickett. Sporting an Armstrong Atlantic State University t-shirt, Pickett shouted encouragement to the mass of runners.
Keep the first half as easy as possible. Make sure that I went through 13 miles feeling pretty relaxed, which I did. And it went out a little quick, it went out a little jumpy, and I got kind of nervous because we were going through the first mile in like 5:30, which is a lot faster of a pace than I wanted to be out. But I settled in nicely, and 5:30 seems really, really relaxed. So I just rolled with it, and the race plan didn't go as planned because I wanted to run like 6-minute pace, but it felt good to run 5:30s and be able to run that consecutively.
Thanks, Shayla. After the break, we will tell you if your favorite electronics gets to take flight as you travel this holiday season. We'll be right back. In time for the holiday travel season. Since 9/11, many changes and improvements have been made with flying, electronics being one of them. Over the course of time, 5 major airlines have made the move for passengers to use their devices on board. Here's Shayla Volley with the latest.
Southwest Airlines become the latest airline to get FAA approval to ease electronic rules for passengers. The move comes 3 weeks after the FAA announced the loosening of electronics rules aboard aircraft. Under the new rules, passengers may use certain electronic devices in airplane mode during taxiing, takeoff, and landing. Each airline has to approve to the FAA that devices are safe to use in airplane mode on its aircraft. JetBlue and U.S. Airways and Delta, American and United Airlines have already implemented the change.
This small device can crash a plane. It can't. It can't crash a plane, guys. Anthony here for D News, and as much as most people hate the experience of airline flying, I actually love it. I love packing, I love airports, I love airplanes, I like those little fun-sized snack bags. There's actually only one part of the experience of flying that really bugs me. This.
Please completely power off and stow all personal electronic
Now look, it's not that I can't sit calmly for 15 minutes without a screen in my face. Okay, it kind of is, I have some problems. But it's more because the rule just makes no sense. You're telling me that the advanced avionics of a commercial airliner are no match for my Kindle being turned on? The FAA says this about the whole thing. 80% of pilot-caused errors occur during taxiing to the departure runway, and most in-flight accidents happen between the ground and 10,000 feet. Anything that interferes with the instruments on the plane in those crucial times could cause a lot of harm, except they don't follow their own rules. See, pilots used to have to carry around these binders of flight information, but now they keep all that info on iPads. And those iPads also give them real-time weather and flight path information. So you can bet that those things are not off during takeoff and landing, and it sounds like they're not really in airplane mode either. And if you've ever been on a flight with Wi-Fi, you know that those networks are on through the whole trip too. The FAA says, look, 2 iPads and a Wi-Fi router, that's just 3 devices. 200 devices would give off much more energy, and that would mess with the plane. Except no, because that's not how electromagnetic energy works. If putting hundreds of mobile devices within close range of one another built up electromagnetic fields like that, you would need a spacesuit to shield yourself from the dangerous radiation of all the freelancers working in a coffee shop or people texting on the bus, which actually doesn't sound like a bad idea to me, but I'm also kind of an antisocial germaphobe. Okay, says the FAA, how about this one? All devices are different, every model of plane is different, we would have to test every device with every plane to know what's safe. No. See, very few mobile devices are custom internally. You'll find the same few wireless chips in just about every phone on the market, and every phone has to operate across the same radio frequencies. So when the FAA is pressed about all these technical loopholes, they finally give answers that make a little bit of sense. Making people turn off their devices during takeoff makes them quiet and attentive during safety information, and keeping people off their mobile phones during flights stops them from annoying other passengers. Now, that I get, but it seems like the rules could be less severe and still accomplish the same thing. How about, hey, no phone calls during the flight, and pay attention when we're talking to you? I could get down with that. You know, the FAA has been asked to look into and change these rules by members of the Senate, and they say they're gonna do it, but they haven't given a plan or a timeline for doing so. I don't know, do you think that we should be able to use our devices during takeoff? Am I being petty about this? Let me know down below, and subscribe for more D News 3 times a day.
It's a ban that's been in place for 22 years. No cell phone calls until you touch down. Next month, the FCC will meet to discuss changing its policy allowing phone calls and access to its mobile wireless services once the plane passes 10,000 feet.
Pros are that you could be more in touch in the air. If you remember, they used to have those old phones built into the back of the seat. I think the cons is that people would be on the phone and it would be really loud and disruptive to the flight.
That's exactly why the major flight attendants are against it. Loud talkers that could drown out important announcements. Voice calls are allowed on some flights in Asia and Europe, but domestic flights seem to be overwhelmingly against the idea, flooding the media with comments like this: absolute worst idea, absolutely no way ever. If the rule has changed, it will allow voice calls. JetBlue and United Way say their guests are largely against the move. Delta flat out says it will be no voice calls.
This isn't just an easy thing for them to start doing. They'd have to build some satellite technology and more technology that would allow cellular phones to work. And on top of that, they'd have to create some sort of a pricing structure. How would this work? How would you get that connectivity? Similar to when they launched Wi-Fi for the sky.
Airlines would need to install special equipment on planes to relay certain signals, but if airlines allow these calls, there is certain that passengers could be charged a new fee to sit in a quiet section. If the FCC moves forward with the plan, it will allow public comment, a process that could take up to a year. To so many travelers, silence is golden, but that silence may be soon history. Old concerns about electronics being a danger to airplane navigation have been debunked. And airlines could make an extra cash charging passengers to call a loved one from 35,000 feet. But that extra money might not be worth the backlash from flyers who view overly chatty neighbors as another inconvenience to go along with smaller seats and stuffed overhead bins. That's one of the reasons the country's largest flight attendant union has come out against allowing calls in flight. The FCC is proposing to lift an existing ban, and airlines would have to decide whether to let passengers make calls. The ban would remain in effect during takeoff and landing. To complicate matters even more, the airlines actually don't need to wait for the FCC. Yes, the government would need to remove the restrictions for you to make normal calls in flight, but there are already plenty of ways to make calls legally over airline Wi-Fi networks while keeping your phone in airplane mode. The airlines just choose to block such calls. Just as many schools and workplaces block access to pornography websites, airlines use similar filters to block access to Skype and other internet calling services. Ultimately, the FCC is going to make its decision based on safety, not public opinion, says Harold Field, a senior vice president at advocacy group Public Knowledge. I'm Shayla Volley. Back to you, Sharia.
Thanks, Shayla, and I'm pretty sure our viewers will use this knowledge when they are traveling. In Tiger news, it's officially basketball season, and our Tigers are off to a great start. Our Tigers recently fell short to Robert Morris College with an 86-66 final score. Although things didn't turn out as the Tigers expected, they kept it a close game until the end of the second half. Tigers led early in the game by 3, but the Colonials took control when they went up by 4 before the half.
Here's a drive down the left side by Wilson. He was cut off, so he sends it out right. They pass
basketball.
Now Tate out front. It's going to missed by Muhammad, and the rebound by the Colonials. Carmel Anderson comes out with it. Over the timeline, Anthony Myers-Payne. A nice drop pass to the back door. Here in the second half, the Colonials lead by 5. Here's Carmel Anderson off of McFadden's screen. Lines up a 3 and drain. Mike McFadden at the free throw line. 6'8" forward out of Newark. His first shot is good. McFadden now with double digits.
That's what the Colonials need from him. Anytime you get double digits from Mike McFadden, that's a good night's work.
Second shot for Mike. Front rim. Rebound. Knocked around. Ball on the floor. Diving for it is McFadden. Scooped it up. Lost it. And it's saved by David Apollon. Apollon swings down low. Puts too far under the bucket. Sends it back out front. It'll go to Mike McFadden. It hit the side of the rim. Bounced out. No good. Fast break the other way. Layup. And it's good for Kyrie. Now the shot clock down to 9. This is Stewart passing over to the left side. A fadeaway Jay from
get back in this game, and Colonials are not letting them get a good 3 off.
Worthen out front, drives left, hands off. Anthony Myers-Payne. He'll get it. He'll spin. He'll drive into the paint. Back out. Carmel Anderson.
They are sure to rise up to the occasion as the season progresses. Cheer them on in Salt Lake City, Utah for the Global Sports Hoop Showcase as they face off with Lamar University, Grand Canyon University, and the University of Utah. Luck to the Lady Tigers and the men's basketball team. Let's take a brief intermission. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for the latest fashions? Whether it's shoes, clothes, jewelry, or even makeup, Forever 21 has everything. It's located right in Oglethorpe Mall, next to PacSun. They also have affordable prices, which makes it easy to shop, and their sizes range from extra small to large. There's definitely something for everyone here, so next time you're in the mall, be sure to check them out.
Welcome back. U.S. officials say 5 Americans have died in the Philippines Typhoon Haiyan, and hundreds of other Americans have received medical assistance. Shayla Volley has more details on this story. Shayla?
Testifying before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, the State Department's Scott Marcel provided the updated U.S. death toll. He said Tuesday, U.S. officials have received more than 1,000 calls seeking information about Americans. About 475 people have been located. The White House says the U.S. is now providing $37 million in humanitarian aid to victims of the deadly November 8th storm. That's almost double what the U.S. has previously announced. The typhoon was among the strongest on record. It killed or has left missing more than 5,000 people and displaced an estimated 4 million people. A major international relief mission is underway to help survivors. Officials in the province of Antique were visiting upland villages where people had fled overnight to convince them that there was no danger and it is safe to return to their coastal homes, said Broderick Train, the civil defense chief for the province. There are people who have been traumatized by their experience with Typhoon Haiyan. When the false information began spreading yesterday, they immediately fled. He said the provincial government was trying to convince them to return to their homes as there has been no earthquake to trigger a tsunami. The Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology said it had not recorded any big earthquakes over the weekend and had not issued any tsunami alerts. Train said officials have yet to find out who has spread the false alert that triggered evacuations in the small coastal towns. I would say there are about 1,000 people who fled their homes overnight. When people leave their homes, they become targets for break-ins. Towns were evacuated were reported had hit hard by Haiyan, which struck the central Philippines on November 8th with winds of up to 195 miles per hour. The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council said the typhoon, along with tsunami-like storm surges that struck the central islands, killed at least 5,632 people, with 1,759 people still missing. This made Haiyan the deadliest typhoon in Philippine history and one of the worst natural disasters on record. The typhoon and the storm surges wrecked more than 1.1 million homes and left more than 4 million people needing emergency assistance. The Philippine government said Saturday rebuilding areas devastated by Haiyan would take up to 5 years and cost more than $2 billion. We hope our fellow Americans are found safe and can return to their families soon. Shayla Valley reporting, Channel 96. Back to you, Sharia.
Oh man, that's such a sad case for our fellow Americans. I hope their family and friends do well with coping with this issue. On to interracial dating. Interracial dating seems to be still a very controversial issue. Newly elected mayor of New York, Bill de Blasio, deals with this issue in one of the most diverse cities in America. Let's take it back to Shayla for some more insight. Shayla?
I'm so happy that I get to work with my dad and the rest of my family on this campaign because, you know, it'd be one thing if I just thought he was like some boring white guy who just didn't know what he was talking about. But you know, he truly, you know, he cares about everybody in the city, every different type of person, you know, rich, poor, black, white, blue, whatever. And, you know, like that's what we really need, you know, if we're gonna bring new ideas to the table and create a world, a society, or even just starting in the city, you know, where everyone has a chance, then we need to start listening to everybody's ideas. And, you know, that's why I love doing what I do and helping my dad. So, without further ado, the world's greatest mayoral candidate.
I'm Bill de Blasio, and I'm not a boring white guy.
From our family to your family, I give you the next mayor of New York City, Bill de Blasio!
Meet New York's first family, an urban quartet from liberal Brooklyn who cracked 20 years of Republican rules with their modern family appeal.
And once again, the smackdown.
Is Bill de Blasio, a 52-year-old former college activist who said he openly supported the Sandinistas and is still influenced by liberation theology.
Inequality, that feeling of a few doing very well, while so many flip further behind. That is the defining challenge of our times.
He promised voters he'll combat income inequality and plans to raise taxes on the wealthy to fund public pre-K.
La gente de esta ciudad ha elegido el camino progresista.
She is Sherilyn McCrae, another progressionista. New York City's next First Lady declared she was a lesbian in this 1979 Essence issue.
And he's tall and good looking.
Talked about her attraction to de Blasio on Huffington Post Live.
I didn't really date very many men, no.
Did you tell him that when you started dating?
I did.
She is their daughter, Kiara, with her signature ring of hair flowers.
They are very stylish.
There's Dante, the son whose outsized afro became the campaign's prop.
And he's the only one who will end a stop-and-frisk era that unfairly targets people of color.
On an issue basis, it did things in terms of the demography of the city. It did things in terms of his family values. I mean, the ad touched so many themes at one time. There was not much left any of the other candidates could do at that.
It was enough to convince New Yorkers to replace a single 5'7" wealthy billionaire businessman with a 6'5" patriarch of a biracial family, or even a picture hugging his son on the Rivera's front page of the New York Times shows that family matters. Reverend Al Sharpton held a conference where future mayor of New York, Bill de Blasio, discusses how he will move forward and not allow racism to
The last few days, Reverend Sharpton has been more than Batman for us. He's come to our defense. He's counseled us. He's been a conscience, as he always is, for this city and this nation. I just have to tell you, in a time that was very painful and challenging for us, he was a rock of strength and clarity for us. Thank you, Reverend Sharpton. 21 years ago, Charlene and I were working in City Hall for Mayor Dinkins.
Come on now.
I met this beautiful, strong woman. I've said many times, for me, it was love at first sight. It may have taken Charlene a little longer. I got to know her, and I saw a human being that I fell deeper and deeper in love with. A human being. And I am so proud of the years of struggle and activism, of what she did for women, for the LGBT community, for people of color, and the anti-apartheid movement. I am so proud of this woman and the good work she did. And for 18 years she has been my wife. She is the mother of 2 extraordinary children. I could not be more blessed. I say to the New York Post first, my first response is as a husband and a father. Leave my wife alone, leave my children alone. Misinterpret that sentence for a moment to mean that Charlene McCrae cannot defend herself, because I assure you she can. But I'm offended. They denigrated a woman who is a role model by any measure. By any measure. And it's just not their place to do that. I think there are actually some people at the post who have a conscience. If some people at the post who are good people, I don't know how they tolerate this, or how they tolerate the cartoon of Reverend Sharpton years ago, or how they tolerate the depiction of the President of the United States of America. I don't know how they stand for it. And the only way things change, and I want to talk about the state senate too, because these things are related. It's all related. The reason these things somehow continue to exist is because some people tolerate them. And if you look at your American history, and look at McCarthyism, which was one of the most horrible and destructive moments in the history of this nation, it was journalists like Edward R. Murrow who said, we're not doing this anymore. Who set a standard for the rest. Who said, this is not what our nation is supposed to be about. And that started to break down the wall. And then one by one, people stood up and spoke out. And it's time for us to say, once and for all, to the New York Post, stop dividing this city. We will not take that forward. We have so many challenges in New York City. We are too often two cities. There's too often a distance between those who are doing well and those who are struggling, those who have all their rights and those who don't. We need to become one city, and the New York Post has to get with the program. Finally, to the Senate, there's only one kind of democracy. The people of those districts voted for Democrats. They did what people all over this country did. There was a mandate. You can't ignore the mandate of the people. Not only did the Democrats achieve so much, as we've heard, not only is John Sampson the kind of selfless leader that might begin to restore people's faith in politics when they see something like he did today. God bless him for it. We need people in public life to understand, when you're given a mandate by the people, you must respect it. Yes. If you don't respect it, there are huge consequences. I'm not just talking about how the people will resolve the issue at the next election, and they surely will. I'm talking about what it means for our country. Yes. We, so many of us on November 6th, felt that we were beginning something new and powerful with the re-election of our president. So many of us back in Charlotte felt that the Democratic Party was coming into its own, embracing all its elements, ready to help move.
I hope this issue can get worked out. Well, it's been a pleasure to be here with you today, but that's all our time. We hope you tune back in with us. Again, I'm Sharia Grant, and thanks again to my partner, Shayla Volley, and we'll see you next time here at Channel 96 Tiger Talk News.